Welcome to the Explainer. All right, today we're going to tackle a question that sounds pretty simple, but wow, it really gets to the heart of how we think about money. And that question is your house an asset or a liability? We're going to dive deep into the psychology that shapes how you answer, and it's absolutely fascinating. Okay, so let's just jump right in with that big question. Is the home you live in really an asset or is it a liability? You've probably heard this debated before, right? And it seems like a straightforward question. But your answer, well, it says a ton about your fundamental relationship with money. So on one side, you've got Robert Kiyosaki, the rich dad, poor dad guy. He'd tell you, no way, your house is a liability. Why? Because every single month, money for the mortgage, for taxes, for upkeep, it's just flowing out of your pocket. But then you talk to any accountant and they'll look at you like you're crazy. Of course it's an asset. It's a resource, it has real economic value, and it gives you a future benefit. So, who's right? Well, this clash of definitions isn't really about accounting rules at all. What it really points to is something much, much deeper. It's about two completely different financial mindsets, two different ways of seeing the world that end up shaping every single financial behavior we have. A really common way to break this down is by talking about a rich mindset versus a poor mindset. And this quote here really nails the core idea. It's all about this fundamental principle. Money makes money, and the money that money makes money. Do you see money as a tool that can grow and work for you, or is it just something you earn and then spend?
Okay, so check out how this table breaks down these two approaches. It's pretty stark when you see it side by side. On one side, the rich mindset is all about playing the long game. You're thinking about long-term goals, you're willing to take calculated risks, and your main focus, building your net worth. But the other side, the poor mindset, is often completely absorbed by the short term. It's about how things look right now, getting that instant gratification, and honestly, just trying to avoid risk at all costs.
Now, this whole framework it's a useful way to think about things. But it leads to a really important question, doesn't it? Is it really just a matter of choice? Just waking up one day and deciding, hey, I'm going to have a rich mindset? Or is there something else going on? Some deeper psychological force that actually makes it way, way harder for some people to adopt that long-term view?
This is where we need to turn to the science, because it gives us a much more complete and, frankly, a more compassionate picture. See, researchers have come up with this incredibly powerful framework that explains exactly how our environment, the situation we're in, can literally change the way we think about money. And that framework is called scarcity theory. The core idea here is really profound. It suggests that the condition of having too little, whether it's money, time, or anything else, doesn't just make life hard. It actually fundamentally changes the way our brains operate. And this is super important to get right. Scarcity isn't just about the objective fact of not having enough money. It's the subjective feeling of having less than you feel you need. It's a psychological state, and it puts this immense constant strain on our minds. So, according to the research, once your brain enters this state of scarcity, it triggers two major, predictable, and incredibly powerful changes in how you think. Okay, the first one is something called tunneling. This is where your focus just narrows down like a laser beam onto the most immediate pressing problem you have. And the second thing that happens is a massive reduction in what scientists call our mental bandwidth. You can think of this like a tax on your brain power. It just drains your ability to think clearly. Now, this tunneling effect, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the plus side, it makes you super efficient at dealing with that one urgent thing. You become an expert at putting out that immediate fire, like, how am I going to pay this bill that's due tomorrow? But the huge downside is that you start to neglect everything else that's important, but not urgent. All the stuff on the periphery, like planning for retirement, just fades into the background. And while that's happening, you've got that second effect, the mental bandwidth tax. The constant stress, the juggling, the worry that comes with scarcity, it's exhausting. It literally leaves you with less mental energy for the hard stuff, for reasoning, for solving complex problems. And it really, really taxes your self-control, making it so much harder to resist impulses and plan ahead. And this is where you can see the whole cycle come together, and it is brutal. It starts with a lack of resources, poverty. That creates the psychological state of scarcity. That scarcity then triggers tunneling and drains your mental bandwidth. And because your brain is operating in this state, you're more likely to make short-term, often less than ideal decisions, which can end up trapping you in poverty. It's a vicious feedback loop, a scarcity trap.
Okay, so this is all really interesting theory, right? But what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's bring it down to earth and see how this scarcity cycle plays out in actual financial decisions people make every single day. Think about payday loans. The interest rates can be absolutely astronomical, right? Thousands of percent annualized. Why would anyone ever take a loan like that? Well, tunneling explains it perfectly. If the problem inside your tunnel is, I need cash right now or my family gets evicted, that is the only thing that matters. The devastating long-term cost of that loan, it's completely outside the tunnel. That immediate desperate need just completely overshadows any thought about the future. So you see how this completely reframes that whole rich mindset versus poor mindset conversation? Suddenly, the poor mindset isn't some kind of character flaw. It's not a lack of willpower or discipline. It's a predictable, and you could even argue rational, cognitive response to having your mind constantly overloaded and under siege by the pressures of scarcity. Okay, so let's bring it all the way back to where we started. Is your house an asset or a liability? Well, Kiyosaki's view that it's all about whether it puts money in your pocket right now, that's a perfect example of tunneling, isn't it? He's focusing on the most immediate metric, cash flow. Meanwhile, the accountant's view, the one that looks at long-term economic value, well, that requires having the mental bandwidth to step outside the tunnel, to analyze and to plan for the future. The entire debate is a beautiful illustration of these two cognitive forces at war with each other. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? I think it's this. If we want to make better financial decisions, we have to start by recognizing that mental bandwidth is a finite, precious resource. Honestly, learning to manage our cognitive load might be just as important, if not more important, than learning how to manage our money.
And this leaves us with a really big, kind of provocative final thought to chew on. If poverty and bad financial decisions aren't really about a lack of character, but about a crushing tax on the mind imposed by our circumstances, then the whole problem changes. The real challenge becomes, how do we design systems, financial products, jobs, social programs that are built with this in mind? How do we design a world that actively works to reduce scarcity and give people back the mental bandwidth they so desperately need to get ahead? Just think, what would that world even look like?